I just realized something. I talk about corporate all the time. I reference it, I joke about it, I compare my life now to it constantly. And I never actually sat down and told you why I left. It feels like a pretty big thing to leave out. So let's get into it. The official why I left corporate video. First, let me tell you how I even ended up in corporate. Because it didn't start with some grand passion for spreadsheets. It started with my parents. I grew up in a household where having your own cubicle meant you made it. That was the dream they painted for me. Stable job, the benefits, a salary you can count on. That's success. And honestly, I get the appeal. Regular money hitting your account, coworkers to enjoy the misery with, and health insurance that actually works. There's a real comfort in that structure. So I bought in. I went into accounting, tax accounting specifically, and I worked my way through different companies, mom and pop shops, mid-sized firms, big four adjacent. I got the experience, I put in the hours, and I showed up. And I went in wide-eyed, full of spunk, ready to climb. And about 6 years later, it broke me. And when I say broke, I don't mean one dramatic moment, not some huge meltdown in the middle of the cubicle floor. I mean a slow, quiet erosion. Let me walk you through it. So physically, my body started telling on me before my brain caught up. I was sleeping less, not because I was a night owl by choice, but because after spending 8+ hours doing work I didn't love, I was desperate to reclaim some awake time that felt like mine. So I would stay up too late just to feel like I had a life outside of a laptop. And then I'd be exhausted the next day and the cycle would repeat. On top of that, and this one's a little funny in retrospect, I was putting on weight, which makes sense when you think about the math because you're sitting at a desk for 8 hours, coming home burnt out, and then sitting in front of a gaming setup to unwind. My body was basically just sitting machine at that point. I was sitting. My work was sitting. My life was sitting. I wasn't moving, I wasn't resting properly, I was just existing in a state of low-grade exhaustion and calling it life. Oh, and you can't forget about the sweet treat intake that I usually did just to perk myself up. So that coffee that I enjoyed from the coffee shop down the street that had about 40 grams of sugar in a cup, I used to get that almost daily. I didn't know. Ton of sugar. No wonder why I gained weight. That and the company would have free lunch Wednesdays, I think. Company would have free lunches on certain days, and I would go just eat to my heart's content. Should I have? No. But do I waste food, especially free food? Also no. And emotionally, it was just the culture. Because the physical stuff I could manage, the emotional stuff is really what got me. There's a specific kind of tired that comes from never being fully off. And corporate has mastered the art of making you feel like you can never fully log off. For me, it was the green dot. You know the one. The little status indicator in Microsoft Teams that tells your manager you're online. And if you don't touch your laptop or mouse for about 3 to 5 minutes, it turns you yellow to away. There was this unspoken culture in my workplace where being green meant you were being present. And not being green meant that you were somehow slacking, even outside work hours. I would carry work home in my head every single day. I'd be having dinner and thinking about a client. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. anxious about a deadline. I felt constantly available and constantly behind at the same time. And that combination will hollow you out slowly. And I think the part that really wears you down is not just always having to work, because I always have to work now and it doesn't wear me out. It's always having to feel like you need to perform, that you're there to be present at all times. And I think that pressure from other people, from managers, from higher ups, just it was a lot to always have to bear. But that's kind of the funny thing about public accounting world. They expect your full time. They expect all the time that you have. They might not say it outright, but they do expect it. It was some sort of a badge of honor if you spent all your day at the office instead of at home doing whatever you do in life and love. And yeah. But here's the thing that really broke me. And I want to be specific about this one because I think a lot of people will recognize it. I am someone that always needs to be moving forward. In my career, in my life, standing feels wrong to me. So when I started to plateau, I didn't accept it. I doubled down. I stayed late. I came into the office more, specifically to be seen in the office. And this is after we have been remote for a while. I took on extra responsibilities that weren't in my job description. I went to social events. I made small talk. I put in the effort that went beyond what was asked of me. And I genuinely thought that I was doing everything right. I thought the promotion was coming. Yeah, I was passed over because one manager thought I underperformed on one client, and that single opinion carried more weight than everything else I had done and accomplished. That was the moment I understood something I wish someone had told me earlier. Corporate isn't just about doing great work. It's about playing politics. And I was exhausted, genuinely exhausted by a game that I never wanted to play in the first place. I'd also like to point out that the company promoted someone they knew was abusing substances and was constantly late or blew off client meetings. He still got promoted. So he was playing the politics game strongly. Yeah, which is sad. It's sad to see that hard work gets rewarded with more work and not a promotion. I was just playing the wrong game, but I didn't know. And that sucked. That sucked a lot. And then I did the math, not financial math, life math. I sat there and I asked myself, can I do this for 30 more years? Can I keep staying late to be seen, taking on more work that's not mine, managing up, navigating office politics for 30 more years? I couldn't even finish the thought. The thing is, I have always had this drive to build something of my own. It's been there my whole life, just running quietly in the background. But corporate was taking up 80% of my time and 80% of my brain. I'd come home so burnt out I was stuck to the bottom of the frying pan. There was nothing left to give to the thing I wanted to actually build. And at some point, I had to be honest with myself. The job wasn't just tiring me out, it was costing me the life that I actually wanted. And when I have the urge to go back to corporate because I want that nice steady paycheck and build this career that I feel like I kind of just threw away, I think about that. I think about the 30 years that I would spend in corporate. And honestly, that shocks me right back out of that mentality. And it's really hard because that mentality has been instilled in me from when I was very, very young. My parents still ask me when I'm going back to corporate. That's a whole different topic of disappointing your parents. But yeah. And then I debated on whether I should include this or not, but I'm including it. There was the harassment. And I want to be clear about what I mean, because this wasn't just someone giving me a compliment that landed wrong. This was someone telling me my voice sounded too sexy in a meeting. Yeah, it sounded like this. And probably like more tired. This was someone implying that because I was married, I'd miss an opportunity to advance. Like my relationship status was a professional liability. I felt uncomfortable consistently, and worse than the comments themselves was the slow realization that some people in the environment saw my advancement as tied to things that had absolutely nothing to do with my work. That was it for me. That was the moment the last piece of doubt disappeared. And have you seen those videos of the girls that used to dress nicely to work and then brought it down tenfold and went into slack mode? I see why. I do. They are judging you based on what you like to wear versus your work. And that happens more often than even I would like to admit. Let's just say I quickly stopped wearing pencil skirts into work. And I enjoyed them. They were comfortable, but I had to stop. And that's sad, but also reality of some corporate workplaces, even if they're full of girls. Here's the part that surprises people when I tell the story. I love accounting. I genuinely do. I love taxes, the logic of it, the problem solving, the satisfaction of everything balancing out. That didn't go away. I still do taxes outside of corporate. I keep my skills sharp. I kept doing the work that I'm actually good at. I just removed the environment that was making me miserable. So it was never the work. It was never the spreadsheets or the clients or the complexity of tax season. It was the atmosphere, the politics, the culture, the feeling of being a replaceable piece in a machine that didn't really see me. Once I separated those two things in my mind, the work that I love versus the environment I hated, the decision became a lot clearer. So what am I actually doing now? I started here with this on YouTube. I know that might seem small, and honestly, some days it feels small, but I made a decision that I wanted to build something I actually care about. And I wanted to start by making things I enjoy. So sharing what I know, finding people who think like me, and documenting the journey while I'm still in the middle of it. And longer term, I want to build a clothing business, not because I think it'll be some $1 million empire. I don't. I want to do it because it genuinely excites me and I want to make it real. That's it. And sometimes that's enough of a reason. But right now, I'm here, growing, figuring out a path, and sharing it as I go. Corporate took years from me that I can't get back. Years that felt productive on paper, on my resume, but were quietly costing me something I couldn't name until I left. I want to reclaim what's left I want the next chapter to actually feel like it's mine. And in all honesty, I get bursts of temptations to go back. They don't last long, but they're there. Man, I really hope this is all worth it in the end, though. But I'll tell you this, if it's not and I end up dying in corporate somewhere down the line in some alternate universe, I will make it my life's mission to haunt every corporate building I can find, scare people out of their cubicles, and make it my ghost agenda to get people to go home to their families or do something they actually love. Haunting corporate would be a great use of eternity, honestly. Okay. If you're still here, thanks for listening. This one felt really important to finally say out loud, and I'm glad I can get my little background story out there. If any of this part sounded familiar, drop it in the comments. You're not alone in it. And if you are still in your corporate era, trying to figure out your next move, stick around. That's kind of what this whole channel is about, but also kind of fun. Hopefully. I had feelings writing about this, like trudging up my corporate memories. Yeah, that sucked. And honestly, I left out some really great stories, so maybe they'll pop up in some videos later on. I thought I wouldn't traumatize everyone right off the bat with everything. So, and honestly, 6 years isn't a lot in corporate. I spent longer as an accountant or tax accountant, but I wouldn't count it as corporate because I was not in that ladder climb. But to all my friends that are still in corporate, yay! Do what you like. You do you. Corporate does agree with some people. It does. I don't hate on all corporate. If you find the right company, the right team, it could be really great. I think I had really bad luck, and it's just me as a person didn't work out. We're not compatible, it seems like. Would love to be, but it doesn't look like it's happening that way. Okay. Yeah, that was it. Okay. Anyways, see you guys next week. Bye.